Hi BookTube! My name is Sarah and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. Today I am coming to you with a week in review video. So in this video I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I have finished this week and my thoughts on them. So I do daily reading vlogs and I talk about the books that I'm currently reading and I talk about that I finished a book, but I don't give you my full review on the book. I'll just give you my quick star review, my star rating, if you will. So in these videos, I plan on getting more in depth with my actual review for the books that I read this week, because I know not everybody likes watching the daily reading updates, and I get that. There's a lot. I put one out pretty much every day, and they're not exactly short necessarily, because I like to do this quite a bit, as my teachers in school would say. And so this way, for those of you who are just here for the book reviews, here we go. So anyway, I finished 3 books this week, so very excited about that. So let me go ahead and share those with you. So the first one that I finished was A Doomful of Sugar by Catherine Brunn. This is the first book in the Maple Syrup Mystery series. I gave it 3 stars. This is a cozy mystery book. Because I am now doing the Year of Category Romance, this is probably going to be the only non-category book I finished this year outside of my Back to My Childhood throwback books. So, like I said, cozy mystery. The plot of this one is our main character, Layla, was living in Florida, and then her father was murdered, and she came back home to Vermont. Her father owned a maple syrup farm, so with maple trees, and he made syrup. And he also, on that farm, had a gift shop and a cafe. So it was like a whole thriving business. They did tours in the lot. So, her father was murdered at the farm, was there. And then, at the beginning of the book, the reading of the will, she is actually being given the farm itself as, that's her inheritance. So she's going to run it. She hadn't planned on doing that. She was going to go back to Florida. So anyway, sorry, George was just in here kind of behind me, and I don't know what he was about to do. But anyway, I tried to grab him to show him to you guys, but he left. He's a very aloof cat, that George. So anyway, so she's, of course, sticking around to run the farm for at least a year, and her brother's kind of being implicated in the murder, if you will, and she wants to find out, of course, who killed her father. So I gave it 3 stars, like I said. So what did I like about it? So what I liked was the maple syrup farm aspect of it. I really loved that, and I didn't. I'll get into that in just a second. I love that it was a maple syrup farm, which you don't see all the time. Being Canadian, I've got to support, maple syrup. And so I really liked that. I really also liked the fact that Layla and the rest of her family were all Lebanese. And you heard about all these different Lebanese foods that her mom makes. Oh, and they all sound so good. And I'm just and there was actually Lebanese recipes in the back of the book, which is super fantastic. I thought all that was really, really great. I liked the relationship between Layla and her brother Simon. The relationship between her and her mom, I understand. It was a little frustrating at times, but I understand that it was probably very realistic. And I did like the growth that Layla had throughout the book. What didn't I like? Few things. So what I didn't like was the maple syrup farm. I mean, I liked the maple syrup farm, but it was just a location. I wanted more of it. I wanted, the first book takes place in the fall. Maple syrup doesn't get started. The sap doesn't come for that until February, March. I think it would have been a lot of fun to start the series off when they're doing the maple syrup, because I would have loved to. Now I know book 2 gets into that, and that's fine, but that would have been great for book 1. It just felt like there was nothing it was one of those ones where people talk about this all the time. I think there's an infamous series where it's a candle making shop that never once do they make a candle. So I felt the same way with this. I mean, they were talking about maple lattes and maple candies, and her mother bakes with the maple syrup and stuff like that, but that's really all that you see. I wanted more. I wanted more in depth into the business itself. Also, Layla needed to relax because she was basically blaming every single person who came across her path for her father's death. First, it was Noah who worked. She didn't even meet the guy. She's like, well, it must have been him. I don't know who this person is. I've never met this person before, and he was so close to my father. He must have murdered him. Take it down a notch, girl. Take it down. I understand you're grieving, but take it down a notch. Literally every person she ran across, she was oh, it must be that person, which really got old very, very quickly. I also didn't find this one very cozy, to be completely honest with you. And I'm finding that one with cozies nowadays, like the more I'm reading of them that are more recent releases. Not that they're millennial cozies, because I know that's an entire other ballgame, but there was a drive-by shooting in this book. Like, that to me is just, it's not... I always go back to Hannah Swenson, and I know she's not... I know that series kind of went off the rails, and I totally get it. But if you go back to that first book, it was so charming. And that's what I feel is missing from cozies now. You're missing that charming aspect from it. Where, you know, in Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanna Fluke, the first book in the Hannah Swenson series, she's like, you know, she finds this, I think he was, I'm trying to remember, I read it years ago. I think the guy was found in his truck, and she bakes, like, she owns a cookie shop. So you see the cookie shop, and there are recipes between, like, every single chapter, which is delightful. But there was nothing like a drive-by shooting. There's, at one point in every book, Hannah does get into peril, but not to that extent. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. It just seemed a little over the top for me, and I didn't love it. I mean, continuing on with the series, I'm not reading anything other than Category for the rest of the year, so this is being put on the back burner. Maybe I'll get to book 2, maybe eventually, who knows. But yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't love it. And I think me struggling through this book, because I did struggle a little bit through it. I ended up listening to a good chunk of it on audio, just to and from work, just to get some reading done on it. Because I didn't want my very first book of the year to be a DNF. I just felt that sets a precedence for the rest of the year. And I think that's what made me really start thinking about doing just an entire year of category romance. So I do have the book to thank for that. The next one that I finished was Christie's Great Idea by Ann M. Martin, book 1 in the Babysitters Club series. This is a 5-star read. I do not need to talk about this one. Yes, I'm rereading through these. I got up to book 11 last year, but I'm going back from the beginning just for a clean start. Now, I am reading all the ones that are available as graphic novels, and this one is available as a graphic. So I actually technically read this as the graphic novel, but I'm counting this is the cover for if you buy it on Kindle. Again, Christy Thomas gets an idea for a Babysitters Club. Her, Claudia, Marianne, and Stacy start the club. They get into a fight. It's fun. If you were a kid in the 80s, especially if you were a girl in the 80s, you probably read this series. I loved it. And the last book that I finished this week was hands down my favorite. Well, no. I mean, Christie's Great Idea is a 5-star. It will always be a 5-star regardless, but to be completely honest, this one was a favorite book. The Ballad of Emma O'Toole by Elizabeth Lane. I gave this book 4.5 stars. This is a Harlequin historical, number 1151, and it was published in September of 2013. This is my first book for the year of category romance reading. And like I said, 4.5 stars, guys. This is a reread for me, but it had been a long time, and I forgot how much this was more than you think it is, okay? So essentially the story is about our main character, Emma. And at the very beginning of the book, in the prologue, she is in the family way with this boy. I mean, I say boy. I mean, they were probably 19. She's quite young at the beginning. Not quite young, but she's like 19 at the beginning of the book. Logan, the male lead. I don't think he's that much older than her, maybe 25. You know, she's probably 19, 20-ish. She acts very young at the beginning of the book. I can say that. And she's pregnant, and her boyfriend, Billy John, said he would marry her. So he leaves, and he goes to the gamble. This takes place in Park City, Utah, in the American West in the 1860s. I think it's the 1860s. And he is going to try his luck at the gambling tables to try and win them some money, because he now has a wife and child to potentially, to support, because he's going to get married and she's going to have a baby. He gets killed. So she gets woken up in the middle of the night, come to the saloon. He's been shot. She arrives. This guy named Logan Devereaux is the one who shot him. And everybody knows that he shot him. It wasn't hidden. It was point blank. He shot him, right? So the story starts to come out later about what actually happened to him and how the shooting took place. And while Logan did shoot him, the reasons behind the shooting started to come out. So anyway, Logan was going to be tried and convicted. So after the story came out of exactly what happened, he was convicted of manslaughter. So it's not like he got off scot-free. So the judge, in typical romance novel fashion, gave him the option of either A, going to prison, which he did not want to do, or B, he had to marry Emma. Because, of course, again, she's in the family way, and she's going to need someone to support her and the baby. So, you know, Emma agrees to this arrangement. And throughout the course of the story, the two of them fall in love. So their romance is really quite secondary to the main plot line. So the main plot of this is that he ends up starting this silver mine. Like he has this, he wins the silver mine in a poker game or in a game of cards, and he decides to mine it. And throughout the book, because Emma used to live in a boarding house, and she was almost like a maid to all these miners who lived there. She heard all the stories about how dangerous it was and how these men were killed or severely injured, never able to work again. Women were left, you know, as widows and children as orphans and things like that. And she really wanted to take up the cause to make the mine conditions a lot more safe. So that is the big plot line actually running through this book, you guys. And you wouldn't think it is, but it is. There's also a great bit of mystery going on as to something from Logan's past. And there's this evil little reporter man who's like, he started this whole thing with the Ballad of Emma O'Toole. And what that is basically after her fiance, if you will, was murdered, he wrote this ballad that they sang in the saloons. And throughout the course of the story, parts get added to it. And that's where the title of the book comes from. So yeah, that was really good. So it had a great scene at the very end of like the bad guy getting his comeuppance, if you will. A great fight scene of sorts. And I love the American West. I really, really do. I know that some of them can be problematic when you're dealing with Native Americans and the way they were treated. And I'm not discounting that. And there is some stuff in this book now, to be honest, it was published in 2013. I mean, 2013 was not that long ago. But there's one scene that I kind of raised an eyebrow at, because they're talking about the different types of people who work in the mines and who's good and who's not. And they were racial slurs, I want to say. It's one scene. And they're discussing, you know, how people work. And it wasn't necessarily bad, but just the way what was one of them called? I don't want to say, no, cousin something. But it was like British people coming over, like, and they were cousins to somebody else or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is. But the Chinese are mentioned quite a lot because they were there. And you know, some of the phrasing for that might not be what we would accept today, maybe in books. But again, it was written in 2013. But again, I'm not excusing it for that. I'm just saying. And also, I feel it would have been written for the time period. It took place in 1860. That's probably how, and they were probably being nice does that make sense? So anyway, I don't want to guys, I love this book. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought it was so much fun. And if you like historical romances, give this one a shot. I don't think you'll be disappointed. So anyway, that's everything that I read this week. I'm not going to share with you what I'm currently reading because I do that in my daily reading updates. But I will share with you, I've got a bunch of videos coming to the channel this week. So on Wednesday, I have an announcement video. Both Storm and I are going to be announcing the Retro Romance Readathon coming back for February. And then on Friday, I have a used book haul. Very exciting. And of course, my daily reading updates. You know, every now and then I may miss a day, but my goal is to get one up every day. And what I'm actually going to be filming next, or going to be filming while I'm sitting here as well, because I'm kind of bulk filming everything for the week, is I am going to be filming again my random book from the shelf. So I had debated, even though I talked about it in these are my kind of reading and channel plans for the year, to do those videos. I wasn't absolutely sure if I wanted to do them or not. And then when I made the decision earlier this week to do the year of category, right, reading category romance, I'm like, what's a better time to do this? So I literally went and picked 7 books off the shelf. So I'm going to do 7 little shorts, essentially, just showing one off every day. So hopefully I can keep that momentum going and film these all. Like, before I used to film them like that day, but I'm going to bulk film them now because I think that will be a lot easier. So anyway, guys, that is all that I have for today. Please let me know in the comments below. What did you start your year off with? Did you have any great reads? Have you read any of these ones that I talked about? What were your thoughts on A Doom Full of Sugar? And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.